It's pretty interesting how a lot of us are so disconnected in the gaming world. A lot of us get a Twitter or, an Instagram or whatever, and suddenly we think that gives us the right to sort of attack developers or anybody who doesn't agree with our opinions. And that is such an ignorant take to have. Yes, I've been an internet troll before, a decade ago or whatever. I think most of us used to do something like that if you've been around long enough. And that's not to say that that was right. But I think the fact that people are sort of changing, like I have, and, nobody's perfect. But then you have people that literally just, the discourse over a lot of these things is absolutely ridiculous. And it is nice to see that Microsoft and, the world is trying it. But you would think that they weren't trying or changing anything with the way that so many people sort of react to what they do. Now, this to me was interesting. So a Starfield developer calls out unreasonable criticism from some people on social media. And I agree 100%. 100%. Years ago, with the Xbox One era, remember the pixel counting era? Where everything was pixel counted? This game only has 862 pixels. That's not as good as this other one, right? So you had developers who were actually afraid to show off their games, and that was really bad for us because we didn't get an early look at the games. It sucked, right? Starfield, great game, divisive for whatever reason, but people have been unnecessarily and uncharacteristically mean and unreasonable with this stuff. There's been a lot of debate on the Starfield community over, the past days and weeks during some of the comments that one of the developers has made. He took to Twitter to form a long and passionate thread into why game development is much tougher than people give it credit for. The entire thread is massive and worth reading, but luckily, in my best radio voice, I'm going to read it for you and kind of go over and give my thoughts and opinions. His name is Emil, and this is what he goes into. He says, "Funny how disconnected some players are from the realities of game development, and yet they speak with complete authority. I mean, I can guess what it takes to make a Hostess Twinkie, but I don't really work in a factory, so what in the hell do I really know? Not a lot." And then he continues to kind of go on from this particular juncture talking about this. Part of me really gets it when you're a customer and spend money on things that gives you the right to complain about things. I spend a lot of money on games every year, and sometimes it takes a lot for me not to scream into the internet's collective consciousness. I don't complain about games on social media for two reasons. I know how hard it is to make games and have too much respect for my fellow devs. I work for a game studio and it would be uncool and unprofessional for me to do so, but sometimes I want to. Oh boy. Most people don't have these constraints and are free to post whatever they want. The internet is a glorious Wild West, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and there was a time when I exercised that right very freely. When I was writing game reviews in the past, and sometimes it was a good over-enthusiastically too good, and sometimes the bad was me just being sarcastic asshat, but throughout the time I actually had no inkling what game development was like, how hard the designers, programmers, artists, producers, and everyone else worked, the struggle to bring a vision to life with constantly shifting resources, and the stress. This isn't me complaining about my job. I've experienced all these things and will again. It's the nature of AAA game development, but I also have a great position and I'm gainfully employed after 21 plus years, a blessing considering the thousands of layoffs this year. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind because it's the internet, but given my position, I can't not share the truth, and the truth is, nobody sets out to make a bad game. And most game devs are incredibly talented, even if the game they release isn't up to par. See, I never knew this before, but if nothing else, video game development is a series of concessions and tough decisions. There's that perfect game you want to make, and then there's the game that you can make. Sometimes, if the gods smile on you, the two are very close. But in order to get there, in order to get as close as possible to the vision, the team has pushed itself harder and harder, often while dealing with devs being shuffled around or leaving deadlines and creative decisions you wish you didn't have to make. And the team is obviously absolutely operative there. Lots and lots of folks doing lots of work, writing, level building, making character models, coding game systems, trying to schedule it all so it can get done and folks don't burn out, and so on and so on. So sure, you can dislike parts of the game, you can hate on the game entirely, but don't fool yourself into thinking you know why it is the way that it is unless it's somehow documented and verified, or how it got to be that way, good or bad. Chances are, unless you made a game yourself, you don't know what made certain decisions or who made certain decisions, who did specific work, how many people were actually available to do that work, any time challenges faced, or how often you had to overcome technology itself. This one is huge. So yes, love games, buy them, play them, and complain to your heart's content. It's sort of the nature of development player transactional relationship, but just know that the game you're playing is in some ways a freaking miracle in and of itself. Normal people have come together to work for years for one goal: to bring you happiness and fun. So it helps to remember that and them. So I thought it was really, really good things kind of to hit on there. To me personally, like, the thing that I'll point out is video games, like especially with something like Starfield, still gets hate. Like all these months later, people talk about, oh, the player levels have dropped. The player levels have dropped. Well, it's a single player game. How long did people expect others to stay on there? According to the stats, the average person played this game for over 100 hours. That's a long time for a single player game. You could technically beat this game in 20, 25 hours, right? Like probably maybe even less once you know what you're doing. You don't have to do a lot of the side stuff. So for me, I think that when you look at things and you think, okay, well, you pay $70 for a game, or you can pay for a Game Pass subscription, I think that's pretty cool that you can do that and play the game. But how does that give you the right to really complain? Like, listen, people spent money to go to the movies. It costs more than to go see a 2-hour movie, a terrible 2-hour movie, than to buy a game, right? It's like, I get that you can complain if there's certain stuff to really complain about, but it's like there has been a lot of unreasonable kind of things. I think in general, the way that social media has been lately has meant that, gaming, people can just hide behind keyboards and kind of say whatever they want. And it is super unfortunate. So, at the end of the day, I think that he has some really good points, and it probably sucks hearing, so many people just trash your thing over and over again. And a lot of it is just fanboy nonsense, right? Like, listen, my favorite game isn't Horizon Forbidden West, but I don't go out there daily trashing the game, right? It's not my jam. It's not my cup of tea, but you don't see me out there completely trashing these games. And, the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to it, I think people don't understand that. It costs $0 to not be a dickhead. You know what I mean? I don't think people understand that, right? These people work hard. They have these types of situations where, some stuff kind of crop up or whatever, or it might not be your jam or whatever. But just because Horizon Forbidden West isn't my jam doesn't mean I'm going to go harass the developers and, tell them they should have done this, this, and this, and this, and this, because a lot of people like the game, right? So maybe, so maybe, it's one of those things that kind of comes to fruition or changes over time. But I think maybe give the developers a little bit of a break sometimes. They are kind of backs against a wall a lot of the time. I don't know, but I do like to see some fight in these developers. Let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.